even at my wedding, to celebrate his birthday on a party bus. I declined to go to the party and go on the party bus because of my last experience on a party bus. My last experience on a party bus was Jay's birthday when the bus was rocking while the bounce music was playing. And whether you wanted to shake or not, you had to shake because the bus was shaking by itself. I got off the bus and wanting to not shake anymore, I kept on shaking, almost like I was twerking as I got off the bus because the shake was still in me, even though I'd gotten off the shaking. Life is like that sometimes. That even though you might get out of what's been shaking you, sometimes the shaking is so in you that you keep on shaking after you've gotten out of the shaking. And I wish life was designed just to be all fun and easy, no problems, no situations, no adjustments, no tragedies, no challenges, no financial issues, no government shutdowns, no walls to be built, no getting old, no feeling aches and pains, no stress, no regrets, no surviving R. Kelly or the parents who left their children with him. However the issue comes, life issues, they will beat you up. It hurts and it's difficult, and sometimes you wonder, how can I make it through this thing, and facing that thing is all too much to deal with. There are things we wonder about making it through until we got through, and then we look back and say, how did I make it through that? At the Last Supper, in the midst of the discourse in Luke chapter 22, you will see in the beginning of the chapter, read it all when you get home, that Judas was agreeing to betray Jesus. Then you see Jesus telling Peter and John, go make preparations for the Passover meal and dinner. That was invitation only. And while at dinner, the disciples started discussing again who was the greatest, and obviously Simon Peter was in the discussion. Well, you know Simon Peter, walking on water Simon Peter. You know Simon Peter, the one who has to say something about everything. You know Simon Peter, the one who's ready to cut somebody's ear off for Jesus. He was a ride or die, and surely he thought in his mind he was the greatest. And Jesus looked at him and said, Simon, Simon, indeed Satan has asked for you, that he may sift you as wheat. Note that the Lord called him by his natural birth name, not by his purpose name. Lord, help me in here. I don't care how great you become, you're still who you are to God. I don't care how great you think you are, you still are who you are because of who God made you. You can fool many with your greatness, but you still have to be humble, because at one time all of us were in a womb, and at one time somebody held us up and washed us and wiped us and cleaned our dirty behinds. That's where we came from. You are who you are in God. He says, Simon, Simon, Satan has asked for you. Calls him by name, that he might sift you as wheat. That he has asked for you, that he might sift you as wheat. And to sift wheat, it requires a shaking process. And he says that Satan desires to sift you, to shake you apart, to shake you loose, sift you, to make you break apart. And sifting wheat requires a vigorous type of shaking that separates the wheat kernels from the shaft and the husk and the debris. And in ancient times, the process was that they would take the wheat stalks and they would put them on the floor, and with a stick they would beat them to separate the shaft from the stalk. That's called the threshing. And maybe there's somebody that feels like you're at that point in your life, that you're at the floor, at the bottom, at the base, and feel like you're being beat on at the threshing, and God is doing something that's separating the shaft from the stalk. But not only that, but it's the winnowing. And the winnowing is the separation. Once they pick up the stalks that have left only the shaft, it's where the grain is separated from the shaft. An old-fashioned way, by doing this, they would throw the grain in the air. And the lighter shaft is blown off in the decent breeze, but the heavier grain falls to the ground. And maybe somebody feels like that you're in that type of process, that life is just throwing you in the air and separating you with even a decent wind, and you're blowing from one place to another. But thank God that the heavy stuff falls where it needs to fall. See, I used to struggle with whether God was sifting me or Satan sifting me. But my maturity level now is I know the difference between who's doing what and what matters, and it matters, but really it does not make sense to matter in my life whether it's God or Satan, because if Satan does something, it's only through the permission of God. Somebody should have shouted right there. If God does it, I must need to go through it, through the process to learn or to be better. Now somebody ought to shout right there. But based on what Jesus tells Peter, I can determine motive. Look at your neighbor and say motive. Satan's motives versus God's motives. And the Lord said, Simon, Simon, indeed Satan has asked for you that he may sift you as wheat, but I have prayed for you that your faith should not fail. So then I can determine that Satan does what Satan does to cause my faith to fail. And God does what God does to strengthen my faith. And Jesus says through that in 32 but I have prayed for you, and this is how I know that your faith should not fail. And he says, I have intervened, because if Satan desires to sift you as wheat, then he wants your faith to fail. But I have prayed that your faith should not fail. Listen. Things change in this world, and people change, and life changes, and circumstance happen. But God says through Jesus, I have prayed for you to intercede and intervene on your behalf. Church folk don't know when to shout. You know what? I have to claim that for my life. I know he was talking to Peter, but the word is the word. So I'm going to take the word and the prayer for my own life, and I'm going to say, Jesus, pray for me that my faith should not fail. No matter what I go through or what I face, please intervene on my behalf that my faith should not fail. And he says the affirmative. He doesn't say, and your faith, it's possible that it would fail. He says it should not fail. I have prayed for you that it should not fail. You know, your faith is always on trial. You have to have the right somebody that can petition heaven for you and on your behalf. Lord, help me in here. Some of us are still here, not because of our own prayers, but because of somebody else's prayers that was praying for us when we couldn't even pray or get it out ourselves. And somebody ought to thank God that we have an elder brother that sits on the right hand of God the Father that prays and intercedes for us and on our behalf. Every time Satan wants to accuse us, Jesus stands up and says, but I pray that their faith should not fail. And so here we have it, that God wants us to be so whole in faith that our faith would not fail. That we would be able to have faith in God. And Paul wrote in Timothy, for understanding of this, that I fought the good fight. Meaning, I've done the right stuff, not what's been easy, and not what has been